If I'm sitting on the floor, it can only mean one thing. We're talking about a subwoofer. This is the Alto TS18S. Yes, S for subwoofer, TS for True Sonic, Alto for Alto Professional. This is their latest sub. So if you're thinking the 318, the TS318s are like, no, there's a new one. They got rid of the 3. Basically, they got rid of the generational series to their actual subwoofers. And I'm going to talk a bit about that later on in the video. But for now, we're going to talk about everything this guy can do. So we're going to get some of the basics out of the way. Yes, it sounds awesome. Pretty impressive. So far, one of the more powerful subwoofers that I've tried in the price range. I did a meter test on it to see how loud I can get it at 1 meter in front. And I set it at weighted and unweighted to compare the two because one takes a bit of the bass, contours it off a bit so we can hear what the overall volume. I only used Alto's new actual Buster speaker on top to add to it, which is a great, by the way, it worked as a great combination. But I got it up to 120 dBs and then I stopped because we didn't even get the limit light on at 120 dBs. So of course it's always depending on what you're going to play on it. But I played a lot of actual dance music, anything that had great digital bass embedded in the actual music, which is really where you want to do some big heavy tests. And it gives you a good organic sound out of the speaker. So it sounds true. It didn't have that artificial feel to it. It didn't have that distorted rumble. It was clean right off. That's really important. It's been true through all their actual series that the quality of the bass has been really, really good. You've just been limited to the overall dBs, which is going to be normal. So, but in this case, they've upped the game again, added more power. They've somehow programmed this thing to have minimal amount of distortion out of it. So we don't get that loose, fluttery sound that just sounds loose and out of control. It's tight, constant, strong, and dominant, which is like a bunch of words that I can figure to describe it. For weight, it's a subwoofer. So if you're asking how heavy it is, yeah, it's 93 pounds, but it's an 18-inch subwoofer that can generate, 110, 120 dBs, which is, by the way, more than you're legally allowed to do in most places. So, yes, you're going to measure it in real life, probably a good 12 feet in front of it, 8 feet, depending on where your audience starts, and that's where you're going to measure it. But normally, you're playing for 100 dBs tops. And it better be good music if you're going to be playing it that loud, and that better be what the crowd wants. Normally, you're going to play this thing 70, 80, 90 dBs, which means you can run these all night long. Overall, you're looking at MDF material, which I have no problems with. The grill is solid. It's kind of like a carryover from before, but with a little bit more of the modern look to it. I mean, if you had an old one and you had a new one, people probably wouldn't, unless you took a really close look, notice the differences between the two. Outside of that, it has that same notch taper look to it, which I really like. Gives the speaker a lot of character. The handles are really thick, so they're easy to pick up. They're recessed inside, so they're not going to get caught in the way. And now you even have the option to go on Amazon, buy yourself a set of wheels, and throw them on the back proper-like, so this way you can move it around. I do like the fact that they're on the back, because then you do get to drop it on its backside, which is the way you should normally be transporting it in your van or truck or however you can move these around. Yes, I like putting them at the bottom, but that tends to work good in a hall situation, or like we are in a showroom, or if you're somewhere where they're not going to be put into a vehicle and transported from location to location where they're going to get bounced around like basketballs. That way you want the sub on its backside so nothing gets broken inside. So let's get a closer look at the backside of this actual subwoofer, talk about some of the features, talk about why they didn't call it a TS418, why it's called just a TS18S, and because that's a big important thing going forward. So here we are looking at the big reveal from the back side of the unit. Of course, we now see that it is actually the TS18S, and I haven't been lying to you this whole time. We're going to find out it's got all the proper certificates on it, which are really important. You always want to see this. Just makes you feel safer on when you're going to be using it and where you're going to be using it. Then we move over to the actual operation side of things. Again, very impressive, lots of built-in features, lots of easy ways to use the speaker, especially this one, which seems a little tricky at first, but then once you understand what's going on, it's kind of cool. So what do we have on top? Well, right off the top, using your speaker. How do you plan on using it? Do you have it in an EQ setting? Do you want to have your EQ off, which is how I run it? You can have it in a live setting or in a DJ setting. Now, normally I'm not going to have big extravagant volume controls set if I'm putting it in a DJ or live setting, because I do find it brings up the actual bass in the unit. It kind of boosts that low end a bit in the DJ mode. And in the live setting, you're going to see a little bit more of a transition up in the higher 400 range. So again, leaving it off seems to work just fine. You do have a choice. I mean, if you're not going to be playing it loud and you want to give the speaker more punch and you're not using anything else besides the subwoofer, go for it. Try it out, see what you think. So with this actual speaker set to EQ off and the actual volume set at 75%, I didn't get any limit light, even though I was playing incredibly heavy digital bass through the actual unit. So this way, it was quite impressive, up to 120 dBs. No problem. Now, normally I'd probably run this at around 110 and still have no actual limit light on it, and I'd be able to run that as long as I want. Now, phase alignment. Normally we only see this in basically either a 0 or 180. All of a sudden they're showing us 90 and 270 on this actual unit here, which basically is telling me one really big thing, is they're trying to engineer power alleys out of the actual subwoofer. The idea here is that if you have a subwoofer set up on the left side of you and on the right side of you, you being in the middle, of course, you being the performer, you're going to get this tunnel effect when it comes to power, where you're going to have a lot of dead space off to the sides, and you're going to have this rushing amount of energy going down the center, overwhelming people. Well, I think this is what's going on here. They're trying to engineer a way how to offset the actual phase of the unit by 90 degrees. So your left, 90 degrees, 180 off onto your right side, 270. And this is supposed to help alleviate that problem. Now, the only way to do this is to actually set up two of them in an actual big space, run some tests. But I mean, theoretically, that's what's going on right here. Now, maybe Alto might reach out to me. They might say something different, because there is no actual detail idea of why you would use this outside of 180 standard conversation on the internet right now. So 90 and 270 is basically 90 degrees off from each other, 180 altogether. So in my virtual world, this is to get rid of power tunnels, that big rushing energy down the center that we've seen in a lot of other videos, a lot of people talking about it. You can group your subwoofers together and get rid of it that way, or you can try using this feature right here, which is kind of cool, and it's nice to see something new and different on the actual subwoofer. Now for input and outputs, we're standard. We're going to see our standard look here, where we're going to have our 2 channels in and our 2 channels out. It's a through out, so this way I can link up more subwoofers. If you're going to run one subwoofer, manufacturer recommendation, you're going to come from your controller, your mixer, straight into the back here on top. If you've got one sub, 2 tops, left and right, come out of here and go to your left and right, which is going to be the easiest way to actually connect things and cable manage your setup anyways. So if your intentions are to run multiple subwoofers, so 2 subwoofers, 2 tops, you would then go from your mixer controller straight to the channel 1 input on the back, and then use the through pass up to the actual top speaker. On your second speaker, exactly the same as the first speaker, you're going to go into the first channel and then come out to your top speaker. Pretty straightforward. That's usually the standard manufacturer recommendation. This they do actually cover in their setup guide. Outside of that, you're looking at, 2,500 watts. They're being very generic now about it, which is, to be honest, the right way to go, because that's what all the other brands do at this level here. They're being generic in the fact that they're rating their wattage. Now we know it's peak. It's most likely 1,250, but they're not giving us that number anymore, just like all the other manufacturers don't give you that number. But based on historical fact, that's probably what's going on. Outside of that, I'm looking at dBs, 90, 100, 110, 120 dBs off of the subwoofer. That's the number that we really got to talk about without having that limit light come on. I want to see other companies do that at this price point. That is very, very impressive. Let's have a closer look right here. This is going to be your standard 3-inch caster setup right in the back. You can buy these online. You can buy theirs. Just buy bushing setups, not bearings. So this way you do have bearing locks. 4-wheel locks, they tend to be the blue ones, that sort of thing. Maybe gray now, a lot of them are gray. But they go on here. They're not going to rattle. They're not going to do anything. You just lock them when they're up here, and that locks all the bearings in place and no noise. That's a good setup. It's great. I like that. It's a good idea to have. Now they're using the speckled texture paint on it, which is very durable, very strong. The black is actually pretty soaked into the MDF. So again, it's going to take an awful lot to scratch. And if you do, you do like I do, magic marker is going to make your life a lot better and you'll be fine. The texture does prevent a little bit of the rubbing problems that you may have. And it's nice that there's no grip or anything going on here. It looks nice. Your customer's going to be happy to see it. You're going to enjoy using it because it's a pretty looking speaker. Look at this beveled edge here. This is really nice. This is that little extra piece of detailed work. Take off the corner, because if you take off the corner, you're less likely going to chip that corner. They give you this 45-degree beveled edge, nicely smoothed off. Look at that corner. That is a very nice corner. And the idea here is something that's going to last a while, even if it gets beaten up a little bit. These are smart little things. So let's take a second here and talk about this actual handle here. Very nice, very well done. Look at that. It's all solid, built right in. It's roughly about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches thick. And it's not the metal built-in handles that are screwed in. Why? They wanted to have a much denser material. I think they've realized that you can get some vibration through that metal, and it distorts the quality of sound. So by losing that and having a solid box material inside, you're going to get better reproduction. The handle's recessed well, so your fingers can get a good grasp on the actual speaker when you pick it up. But it looks really nice, and it works out really well. And it does help minimize the amount of noise transfer or vibrations off of the box. Now here we are in branding territory right here. We've got that Alto Professional actual logo right in it. It's nicely done, very professional. We've got this blue light that comes around it, Alto's new signature look. I think it's just really a nice looking speaker. You know, I don't see a button to turn this off, which is okay. I don't see an app that's going to give me that option, but I don't mind it. I think the blue looks really nice, and I think it works really well in the subwoofer. It certainly tells me it's on. And from front to house, for a lot of times, if you're going to have 2 or 4 of these, that's going to be your only indicator to know that it's on. I mean, you'll have overall bass performance, but are all your subs running? Well, if the blue light's on, they are. And again, the grill, nice. The actual texture is tight enough, the pattern's tight enough to minimize any noise transfer through the actual metal. And it even has a diffuser in the back, which helps stabilize the overall air passing back and forth through the grill. Again, the little details that matter. So what we're going to do now is actually try it out. But I do want to, cover overall with you the experience and the big thing about why it's only called a TS18S, why they didn't get into adding a 4 in that model. It has to do with, like they say in their actual description, is that they're building a subwoofer for everybody, not just specifically for their products. They don't want you to feel obligated that you have to have a TS418 or an Alto speaker altogether to actually own one of these subwoofers. This subwoofer will work with your Electro Voice. They will work with your Mackies. They are going to work with your JBLs. They're going to work with everything. If you have Blast Kings, it doesn't matter what brand you have. If it's comparable in the power and performance that this subwoofer wants to operate at, go for it. And if you have a speaker that's really small and you still want a subwoofer, there's nothing wrong with that. If this is what you want, buy small. You can put an 8, a 10, a 12, or a 15 on top of this. You can use 2 8s, 2 10s with 1 sub. That's going to work for you. You can certainly buy yourself a 12, and you can maybe, depending on the type of style of music you like, have 2 12s with 1 18. Eventually, subwoofers are the most important part of your entire rig. They're going to give you the next level when it comes to performance and volume out of your setup. Yes, you start off with 1 or 2 tops, but before you upgrade those tops, ask yourself, what am I missing? Maybe it's just bass. Add the bass. That's going to give you more volume on the top because you're going to be able to transfer some of that bass down low into the sub, and then your overall experience is going to improve. Your sound quality is going to go up, and your volume is going to go up at the same time. That's what a subwoofer does for you. Now remember, again, the idea is that this subwoofer has nowhere to go. It doesn't have to be replaced when they come out with a new top. So one day, in the next few years, there's a TS515 or a 512 to replace the current 412. You could still buy this subwoofer. It's going to be there for you. So that's a really big thing. They are big investments compared to the tops. I mean, it's always like that. You're going to spend a couple extra $100 easy, depending on some models. You're probably going to spend twice as much to get this subwoofer. They do come in different sizes. Of course, there is a 15, which we're still waiting for it to show up. When it gets here, we'll do a video on that. And there's also a 12-inch. Numbers are kind of lined up. TS15S, TS12S. And again, proportionate to the amount of bass and size you want to work with. So why don't we take a listen to it, see what it sounds like, because like I said, it's very, very impressive. We don't have to turn up very loud. I'm going to set up my ribbon microphone from Marantz so we can get a good bass performance off of it. So you should sound really good, and you should experience a really nice overall sound. Again, I'm really enjoying having this. I haven't hit the limit yet, and to be honest, without bringing in a set of earplugs, I'm probably going to stop at the 120 because that's loud enough for me.
Oh, you have your way, and it's making me weaken. You and your stylus try to resist. I can't fight this, and no one makes me feel like you do, and no one sets my body on fire. To the limit, I can't go no more. Red light, no way, I'm coming back home. Long dirt road all on my own. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Write my name in the stone. Cause I'm coming back home. Cause I'm coming back home. I'm back where I left because I know.
So there you are. We've got some boxes showing up on the screen now. Please hit that like button if you haven't done it yet. I'd appreciate that. Also, subscribe if you want. There's the actual palm tree. That's for subscribing. You also got an Alto playlist. So as more speakers come out in the new line, you'll be able to watch them all in that playlist. And you also have the actual circle here, the product circle for the product. That's going to get you to Guitar Center or Musician's Friend, depending on who has it in stock. My stuff's down at the bottom. So if you're interested in Canada, have a look at the banner down below. Just click on any of the products. It'll bring you to our website. I guess that's it. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.